In Avengers Endgame, Natasha sacrifices herself to obtain the Soul Stone, choosing to give up her life to save the half of all beings wiped out by Thanos. This was hard for many fans to accept. However, the rules governing the Soul Stone are irreversible. To honor the wishes of fans, Marvel produced a solo movie for Natasha, Black Widow, which serves as a farewell to Natasha and her fans. This movie, released in 2021, is Black Widow. While Black Widow came out after Avengers Endgame, it actually tells a story set before that film, in the period after the events of Captain America: Civil War, when Captain America and Iron Man have split apart, leading to the dissolution of the Avengers. In Captain America: Civil War, Natasha helps Steve escape by attacking the new king of Wakanda, T'Challa. This act makes Natasha a fugitive, and she goes into hiding in a secluded safe house on the outskirts of a small town in Norway. Usually, Natasha relies on her friend Mason to get whatever she needs. One day, Mason arrives with a few local driver's licenses for her. Just as he is about to leave, Natasha notices a mysterious box that's been delivered. Mason says he has no idea who sent it, so Natasha casually places it in her trunk, planning to discard it the next time she goes into town. Little does she know, the contents of this box will nearly cost her life. That night, Natasha is watching a movie when suddenly the power goes out. The generator has run out of fuel, so Natasha decides to drive into town to buy some gasoline. As she's crossing a bridge, a missile hits her car without warning. Fortunately, the car's build is solid, and Natasha only suffers a few scrapes without any major injuries. She then spots her attacker, a masked figure. Marvel fans will recognize this figure as Taskmaster, a formidable opponent who can flawlessly mimic any combat style she observes. At this point, Natasha assumes Taskmaster is here to capture her, so she immediately pulls out her gun and fires wildly. To her surprise, Taskmaster is wielding a shield identical to Captain America's. Natasha realized that using firearms against Taskmaster was futile, so Natasha decided to engage in hand-to-hand combat. She leapt up and delivered a deadly scissor kick, but Taskmaster used the exact same move, even perfectly copying Natasha's signature way of getting back up. It soon dawns on Natasha that Taskmaster's target isn't her, but the box in her car. Natasha immediately understood that there must be something important hidden in the box. Without hesitation, she uses a rope to suspend Taskmaster from the bridge, then dashes toward the box. Just as she reaches it, Taskmaster cuts himself loose and charges at her. Natasha quickly grabs the shield on the ground and puts up a fierce defense. But before she can counterattack, Taskmaster kicks her off the bridge. When Taskmaster finally opens the box, she finds that its contents have already been taken by Natasha. When Natasha finally climbs up onto the riverbank, she reaches into her pocket and pulls out a small vial of red antidote. Tucked alongside it is a photo of herself with her younger sister. A long-buried memory begins to resurface. Natasha once had a younger sister when she was a child. The two of them lived carefree for 3 years in Ohio with their parents. But in reality, this family was nothing more than a team of Russian spies stationed in America. Her sister wasn't truly her sister, and her mother wasn't really her mother. Their pretend father, Alexei, had just succeeded in stealing top-secret data from SHIELD. Only to be discovered, the family made a frantic escape, heading to a plane they had prepared earlier to flee to Cuba. High-ranking Russian General Dreykov was already waiting for them there. Alexei handed over the data to Dreykov and celebrated the end of his days as an undercover agent. Meanwhile, the fake mother, Yelena, had been injured during their escape and was carried away for treatment. Natasha and her fake sister, Yelena, were taken to a place known as the Red Room, a spy academy where they would be trained to become Black Widows. Through grueling training and relentless brainwashing, Natasha grew up to become Dreykov's most skilled operative. She used her sharp intelligence and extraordinary combat skills to successfully complete countless spy missions. During a special mission, Natasha met Clint, also known as Hawkeye, from S.H.I.E.L.D. For the first time, she began to dream of escaping this prison of a life. With Hawkeye's help, they successfully took down the Red Room's Black Widow organization, eliminating Dreykov in the process. Finally free, Natasha joined S.H.I.E.L.D. This was Natasha's past. Back in the present, to unravel the mystery, Natasha goes to an apartment in Budapest to find her sister. As former Red Room agents, neither one fully trusts the other, and as soon as they meet, they engage in an intense showdown.
Stay down! Stay down! Stay down!
During the fight, they both end up wrapping the curtain around each other's necks. Just as both are on the verge of choking, Natasha lets go first, signaling a truce. Yelena follows suit and stops her attack. Natasha then questions Yelena about why she sent her the vials, almost getting her killed in the process. Yelena explains that the antidote can restore the self-awareness of the Black Widows under Dreykov's control. She herself was freed from his control thanks to this antidote. Not long ago, Yelena had been Dreykov's puppet. She was sent on a mission to Morocco to assassinate a traitor, just as skilled as Natasha. Yelena easily caught up to the traitor and gutted her, but in her last moments, the traitor used all her strength to spray Yelena with the antidote, breaking Dreykov's hold over her mind. Awake at last, Yelena immediately endured the pain to dig the tracking chip out of her thigh. She finally understood why the traitor had defected and vowed to take on her mission to free the other Black Widows. To protect the antidote, Yelena had no choice but to send it to Natasha. Natasha is shocked by the revelation, because she and Hawkeye had taken down Dreykov and the Red Room years ago. What could this new appearance of Dreykov possibly mean? Just as they were arguing, the roof suddenly exploded. The Black Widow killers sent by Dreykov had tracked them here, dodging a hail of bullets. Natasha and Yelena leap from a window onto the rooftop. With nowhere else to go, they use a nearby chimney to swing over to a neighboring building. A Black Widow assassin follows them. Leaping after them, Natasha reaches out to grab her, but the assassin only pulls out a knife. Intent on killing her, Natasha's grip slips. Watching the assassin fall to the ground, Natasha, full of compassion, attempts to go to her aid, but before Natasha can get close, Dreykov remotely activates a kill switch from headquarters, causing the Black Widow assassin's head to explode on the spot. As she stares at the woman's tragic end, Natasha silently vows to destroy the Red Room completely and to save all the Black Widows still under Dreykov's control. To escape the other assassins in pursuit, Natasha and Yelena hop on a motorcycle and speed through the narrow streets at full throttle. At that moment, a van blocks their path. With no other choice, Natasha makes a sharp turn at high speed, drifting into the adjacent alley, but they don't get far before a Black Widow assassin shoots up the tire of their motorcycle. The two sisters quickly got up and hijacked a BMW from a passerby, continuing their escape. Seeing the Black Widow assassin gaining ground, Yelena sharply turns the steering wheel. Just as they finish dealing with the Black Widow, Taskmaster's armored vehicle appears and starts pursuing them once again. Taskmaster, as if possessed by Hawkeye, pulled the bowstring and shot an arrow that hit the target with pinpoint accuracy. The Natasha sisters were blown into the subway with the car. Taskmaster soon arrives in pursuit. Following the trail of blood on the ground, she realizes they've escaped into the sewer and, without hesitation, follows them down. Taskmaster has no idea that this is all part of Natasha's plan, allowing her and Yelena to escape the danger. At this point, Natasha asks Yelena who Taskmaster really is. Yelena explains that Taskmaster is Dreykov's secret weapon, someone who can mirror anyone's movements like a perfect reflection, but Dreykov assigns Taskmaster only the most critical missions. With that, Natasha and Yelena set out on their journey to destroy the Red Room. However, because the Red Room frequently changes locations, Yelena doesn't know Dreykov's current headquarters. The only person who might know was their adoptive father, Alexei. Alexei was once a member of the Red Room, and like Captain America, he was injected with a serum, making him a super soldier known as the Red Guardian. But ever since he returned from his 3-year undercover mission in Ohio, Dreykov inexplicably had him imprisoned for life in a remote snowy mountain prison. One day, Alexei receives a fan letter containing a figurine of his Red Guardian character. Suddenly, the figurine's head pops open, revealing a hidden communication device inside. Alexei puts on the device and hears Natasha's voice, telling him to head to the south wall gate. Hearing this, Alexei instantly understands. Alexei follows Natasha's instructions. He charges forward like a caged tiger unleashed, sweeping aside the guards and then kicking open the iron door as he heads outside the prison. But the prison is surrounded by snow-covered mountains, making it impossible for him to escape on his own. Just then, Natasha appears above, descending with effortless grace. With lightning speed, Natasha effortlessly takes down the guards rushing toward her. Meanwhile, their helicopter comes under machine gun fire. Unfazed, Yelena picks up an RPG from the ground and obliterates the watchtower in one shot. The massive explosion triggers an avalanche, sending all the guards scrambling back inside the prison. Just as Alexei is about to be buried in the snow, Natasha uses a rope to rescue him in the nick of time, but once on the helicopter, Alexei reveals he doesn't know the Red Room's location, prompting Natasha to nearly throw him out of the helicopter in frustration. Alexei insists that, while he doesn't know, he does know one person who definitely does: their adoptive mother, Melina, who is still working for the Red Room. They soon find Melina on the outskirts of St. Petersburg. After 21 years, the four of them are finally reunited. Though their family was originally formed for a mission, each of them knows that their 3 years together created genuine bonds. They cherish this rare reunion, yet each suppresses their emotions. Yelena, however, is the most heartbroken, as she was too young to know their family was fake. She always considered Alexei, Melina, and Natasha to be her real family, and can't just casually brush the past aside as they seem able to.
And I think that for a couple deep undercover Russian agents, I think we did pretty great as parents, huh?
Yes, we had our orders and we played our roles to perfection.
Who cares? That wasn't real.
What?
That wasn't real. Who cares?
Don't say that. Please don't say that. It was real. It was real to me. You are my mother. You were my real mother. The closest thing I ever had to one. The best part of my life was fake. And none of you told me. And those agents you chemically subjugated around the globe, that was me.
What Melina doesn't know was that the mind-control drug she developed from the data Alexei stole was actually used on her 2 daughters, leaving her with a sense of guilt deep down. Natasha also notices that Melina has kept their family photo from their undercover days. Sensing that Melina still cares for them, she urges Melina to reveal the location of the Red Room. Melina says she was trained by the Red Room as an agent from childhood, like a mouse trapped within walls, with no choice at all.
You're not a mouse, Melina. You were just born in a cage, but that's not your fault.
Tell me, how did you keep your heart?
Pain only makes us stronger. Didn't you tell us that? What you taught me kept me alive.
I'm sorry, I already alerted the Red Room and they'll be here any minute.
Natasha eventually persuades Melina, but it's already too late, because from the time they found Melina had already notified Dreykov. Alexei hums a song that Yelena loved as a child to comfort her, only for a jet to descend straight toward them. Alexei quickly puts on his helmet, ready for a fight. Meanwhile, Natasha and Yelena are both stunned to the ground by Melina's surprise attack. When Alexei awakens, he sees Melina piloting the jet as it ascends higher and higher. The truth is finally revealed. The Red Room headquarters is in the sky, explaining why they could never locate it. When Natasha wakes up again, she finds that she and Alexei have been locked in a specially designed cell built by Melina. Meanwhile, Dreykov orders medical staff to cut into Yelena's brain, as she's the only one who's been exposed to the antidote, in order to uncover its weaknesses. Elsewhere, Melina completes her mission and meets with Dreykov. But after a few words, the cunning Dreykov seems to sense something. He reaches out and presses Melina's cheek, pulling off her entire mask. It turns out, this was all part of Natasha and Melina's plan. At that moment, Melina in the cell also removed her disguise and easily escaped from the cell she made herself. Melina then communicates through an earpiece, telling Yelena that she has hidden a knife at her waist. Just as the medical staff are about to inject Yelena with anesthetic, she quickly frees herself and kills everyone in the room. Then Melina began assigning tasks. She told Yelena to go to the cold storage room to retrieve the antidote to free the Black Widow assassins from mind control, while she took Alexei to the control room to lower the entire headquarters down to the ground.
Is this your plan?
My plan is to kill you.
I'm alive. So what do we do now?
What was my mother's name?
Dreykov, on the other hand, was not worried at all after learning about Natasha's plan. Instead, he told Natasha that her biological mother had long been killed by him, and he didn't even know where the body was. Years before, Natasha and Hawkeye had tried to confirm Dreykov's identity by targeting his daughter, Antonia. Believing they had killed them both in an explosion, Natasha believed she had killed Antonia and felt guilty about it for many years. But it turns out that not only did Dreykov survive, but the explosion had also left Antonia severely injured. The ruthless Dreykov had no intention of saving his daughter. Instead, he implanted a chip in Antonia, turning her into his puppet and killing machine Taskmaster. Dreykov then sends Taskmaster to capture Melina and Yelena. Natasha saw that Dreykov had no bodyguards around him, and she felt that the opportunity to assassinate had come. But no matter how hard she pulled the trigger, the gun in her hand would not fire a bullet. And the same was true of the dagger. Natasha is bewildered and demands to know how Dreykov is controlling her. Dreykov smugly explains that he emits a pheromone that prevents anyone who inhales it from attacking him. He then shows Natasha his master plan. He reveals that he has Black Widow puppets stationed all around the world. He boasts that with a single command, he could crash the global oil and stock markets, and plunge a quarter of the world into starvation. Now, with Natasha as an Avenger in his grasp, he is finally ready to come out of the shadows. Hearing this, Natasha merely smiles. It turns out that this was all part of her plan. Her true objective was to get Dreykov to reveal all his secrets. Melina had already told Natasha about the pheromone and the way to counteract it. Before Dreykov could react, Natasha broke her own nose, severing her own olfactory nerve. She then snatches the control device from Dreykov and gives him a well-deserved beating. Meanwhile, Melina and Alexei are on their way to the control room when Taskmaster intercepts them. Alexei selflessly stays behind to hold off Taskmaster, while Melina continues to the control room. Though she manages to infiltrate it, the system has a self-defense mechanism that automatically locks down upon detecting an intruder. In a state of desperation, Melina had no choice but to escape from the control room and make her way to the engine room. After firing a shell, she successfully destroyed one of the engines, which meant that the spaceship was about to crash rapidly. However, her attack also triggers the ship's alarms, prompting all the Black Widow assassins to mobilize. Yelena finally got the antidote after all the obstacles she had overcome, but when she arrived at the Black Widow training base, she found that it had long been empty. Meanwhile, Alexei is locked in an intense fight with Taskmaster. Despite his reputation as the Red Guardian, a super soldier comparable to Captain America, the middle-aged and out-of-shape Alexei is quickly overpowered by Taskmaster. Luckily, Melina arrives just in time and subdues Taskmaster with a scissor kick, locking her in a specially designed cell. On the other side, Natasha is just about to finish off Dreykov when the Black Widow assassins arrive and drag her to the ground. Dreykov uses the opportunity to escape, issuing an order to the Black Widows. No one is allowed to leave until Natasha is dead. Left with no other choice, Natasha fights with all her strength. At first, she was able to hold her own against them, but as the number of Black Widows continued to increase, Natasha could no longer withstand their onslaught. Just as Natasha is about to be beaten to death, Yelena arrives and detonates the antidote above the Black Widows. In an instant, the Black Widows who come into contact with the antidote regain their consciousness. At that moment, the engine began to explode a second time. Natasha ordered everyone to evacuate first while she stayed behind to copy all the agent files from Dreykov's computer. After completing the download, Natasha grabs the remaining vials of antidote and escapes just as the explosion erupts. Spotting Taskmaster still imprisoned, Natasha feels a pang of pity and decides to free her. But Taskmaster, still under Dreykov's control, has only one thought in mind: kill. Meanwhile, Yelena spots Dreykov trying to escape. She fires a grappling hook to latch onto the plane's wing and, just before it takes off, detonates the engine with a single shot. Though Yelena successfully eliminates Dreykov, she is blasted into the air by the explosion and begins plummeting from the sky. Seeing this, Natasha quickly grabbed her parachute and jumped down. Just as Natasha successfully saved her sister, Taskmaster caught up. Natasha pushed Yelena aside and engaged Taskmaster in an exhilarating battle high in the sky. Natasha and Taskmaster battle all the way from the sky down to the ground, yet Taskmaster still refuses to relent. Seizing the moment, Natasha climbs onto Taskmaster's back and hits the switch on Taskmaster's helmet. Quickly, she rises to her feet and smashes the antidote vial with a powerful punch. Dreykov's daughter, Antonia, finally regains her awareness. She thanks Natasha for her freedom. Years of mind control by her father had made her life a living hell. At last, The Black Widow organization, which Natasha had despised for decades, is completely dismantled, and Natasha's family survives the ordeal. 2 weeks later, Natasha asks Mason to get her a Quinjet. Mason asks Natasha where she's planning to go, and she replies, "All my life, I thought I didn't have a family, but it turns out, I have two, and one of them is in pretty bad shape right now, so I've decided it's time to go save them." This leads directly to the final scene in Captain America: Civil War, where she and Captain America successfully break into the isolated prison to rescue Falcon, Hawkeye, and the others. With that, the movie ends. Next up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is Spider-Man's first solo movie. Stay tuned!